What's up, guys? So today we're doing Endgame spoilers, and I know that I haven't done a spoiler-free review, but I'm late enough doing this video. It's been 2 weeks, and you've probably already seen Endgame, and if you haven't, then you probably don't care enough if I spoil it for you, because you don't care enough about the film, because you haven't seen it within its first 2 weeks of release. So it is currently 1 in the morning, and I wasn't tired for some reason, so I wrote 2 pages of notes. First page, you can't see that. Second page, there we go. And yeah, I want to get this video out as soon as possible. So editing is time consuming. So this is just going to be me hanging out, reading from my notebook, talking into the mic, talking about Endgame spoilers. So yeah, let's do it. Yeah, it's going to be one take. I'm going to do it in one, and let's jump into some Endgame spoilers. So, reading from the notebook, the first thing I want to talk about is, let's start at the beginning. The opening scene of Avengers Endgame with Hawkeye losing his family really is fantastic. It sets up the tone for the film, it sets up that sense of dread, it sets up the fact that these characters are human beings and they can actually lose things. They can lose families. They are human beings. Yeah, the film does a great job of making these larger-than-life people feel like humans, feel like normal people. They have lives, they have normal interests, they have families, and when a monumental event like losing half of all life on Earth happens, they lose things too. And the film did a great job of making larger-than-life superheroes actually feel like normal people. So yeah, the opening scene with Hawkeye losing his wife and his children, that really hit me, because from that moment on you knew that this film was a very different kind of Marvel film. The tone that the film sets, especially in the first act, is basically all the characters wallowing in this sense of dread and doom and gloom that the snap has left them in. And the film's tone is perfect because it makes the audience feel the same way that the characters do. And I loved the way that they dealt with time, especially in the beginning. The 5-year time jump really surprised me. I didn't know that was going to happen. They go and Thor just kills Thanos. He just cuts off his head. And then there's a 5-year time jump, and that's a really, really cool idea. I'm really glad that they did that, because we get to see how Earth dealt with the snap. We get to see the massive monuments that they built with all the people who died or who are presumed missing or gone. You know what I'm saying? You get to see how Earth would move on, potentially, from a massive, terrible event like that, and you get to see how our characters moved on. Steve Rogers now runs a support group, which I thought was really cool, because that's perfectly in line with Captain America. He's always about doing the right thing, doing good for other people, and I loved the bit where he's helping the guy in the support group. Hawkeye's off killing people. That makes sense. He has every right to be angry, and the acting in this film, let's talk about that. Robert Downey Jr. is fantastic in this film, especially in the early scenes. When he comes back and he's gone a bit mad, he's gone a bit insane from being in space, and he's going crazy and he's overreacting to anything, and he pulls out his tubes and gets knocked unconscious. That's a really different side to Tony Stark that we haven't seen before. The Tony Stark is usually calm and collected. He's confident in his ability to deal with situations, but we've never really seen like a manic, crazy Tony Stark who doesn't know how to deal with his current situation. So Robert Downey Jr. he's fantastic throughout the whole film, as is everyone. Even Paul Rudd gets a chance to shine and show his acting ability. Paul Rudd is probably the most comedic actor, light-hearted actor throughout the entire ensemble, but when he gets out of the quantum realm and he's looking for his daughter Cassie, and he finally gets reunited with her, and he's asking everyone what's happening. You know, he asked that kid in the street what happened. Paul Rudd actually gets to show that he really is a pretty good dramatic actor. Yeah, back to the notebook. Let's see. Talked about the time jump. Talked about the characters. Steve runs the support group. Let's talk about Thor. What they did with Thor in this film is fantastic. Thor deals with the snap in a very different way to the rest of the characters, because he feels guilty about not killing Thanos when he had the chance. He didn't go for the head, he hit the heart with Stormbreaker, and he has that guilt. He has that guilt because he knows that maybe he could have done more to prevent what happened. And when we're introduced to Thor in this film, after the time jump, he's fat. He's really let himself go. He's drunk. He's fat. His hair's all grown out and long, and he's sitting in his basement in New Asgard with Korg and Meek. I was so happy when Korg and Meek showed up. That made me smile, because Korg is the best thing about Thor Ragnarok, and I love how they basically continued what they did with Thor in Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok was a great MCU film because it took Thor in a different direction. It added humour to his character. It made him a more interesting character because it took away his power. It made him more funny. It made him feel more human. Chris Hemsworth is a very funny actor when he's given the right material, and what they do with Thor in this film, the fact that he stays fat the whole time, the fact that he stays in that physical condition throughout the entire film, he doesn't magic himself to be fit again. He fights Thanos, he fights that final battle looking as he does when we're reintroduced to him, and I thought that was fantastic. So what they did with Thor was great. Another thing that I really liked was the way that the time travel scenes, when they have to go back and get the stones from the different MCU films, the way that those scenes continued on the events of scenes that we've seen before. For example, we know that the last we see of Loki in the original Avengers film was when they're surrounding him and they've captured him, and we get to see what happens afterwards. So he asks for that drink, and then we get to see what happens when S.H.I.E.L.D. agents come in. I think his name is Alexander Price, I think that's probably wrong. Robert Redford's character comes in. Really interesting to see him, because we know that he's a Hydra agent because of Winter Soldier. I love the bit with Captain America in the elevator when he says "Hail Hydra." That was just fantastic. It was really funny because that's completely against Captain America's moral code. You know, he would never, ever want to be associated with Hydra. So that was just a really funny moment. And yeah, I love the fact that those time travel scenes continued on scenes that we've seen before, and you get to see what the characters did afterwards. I just thought that was a really cool idea. Back to the notebook. Let's see. What they do with Hulk. Bruce Banner combines himself with Hulk, and I don't have much to say about that, but it added some really funny, unexpected humour when they meet him in the cafe. I think that was just a really surprising moment, because it's strange to see Banner combined with Hulk and for him to be talking normally as Hulk. So that added some unexpected humour that I wasn't expecting, and I really enjoyed. Let's see. Sense of Dread, the acting, opening scene, Banner and Hulk, time travel scenes, all of that. Yeah, the CGI obviously is fantastic. For the most part, there's one gripe that I'll get to when I'm done talking about the things that I liked about the film. The film is just a really satisfying film, and for a film that had such massive expectations on its shoulders, so many people wanted so many different things from this film. It really is the biggest film of all time. I don't think we'll ever have an event like this ever again. It's already made $2.5 billion. It's going to catch up with Avatar. It's going to be the highest grossing film of all time, I think, for a very long time. I don't know what else could overtake it. A film of this scale, this finality, this is the end of a 22 film saga. That is incredible. I don't know what they're going to do at the end of the next saga of the MCU, but surely it can't top this. And also, after a film of this scale, I want more small scale films. Like, give me an Ant-Man kind of film, or give me a Black Panther, self-contained films that don't feel like they're part of the greater MCU. Give me some of those. Endgame was a very, very satisfying film. It gave me everything that I wanted. It took its characters to places that I didn't know that they could go, but they had to go there. and it gave perfect arcs to all of its major characters. I'm not done talking. I haven't even got to the second page yet. So if you're still with me, I don't know, give me a comment, because, I don't know, I've been talking for about 10 minutes already, and let's see if I kept your attention. So yeah, the fact that Core I need water. Bear with me. Alright, let's keep going. The fact that Core came back was fantastic. The pacing throughout, in a 3-hour film, was actually, it was great. In a 3-hour film, you know, the pacing could drag in many moments, but it didn't. The first act is more of a slow burn, because that's the depressing act. That's when the characters are regrouping, figuring out what the plan is going to be. But as soon as they figure out time travel, Tony Stark just figures out how to do time travel. The pacing really picks up. Not that it was bad in the first act, just different kind of pacing. You know, it was a different kind of pacing. A slow burn is fine when that's what they're going for, and they were going for that, so it worked. Second act really picks up when the characters split up. Black Widow's death, I don't really have much to comment on that, because I was never really that attached to Black Widow, because I think she's not a weak character at all, but I was just never as emotionally invested in her as I was in the rest of the characters. So Black Widow's death, I was okay with it. I would have been okay with her or Hawkeye dying. Also, how have you pronounced that planet? Is it Vormir? Vormir, the planet where the Soul Stone is. I think that the CGI for that planet, ever since I saw Infinity War, and you get the first shot of Thanos and Gamora walking, and you get like the shot of the moon or the sun of that planet, it really is gorgeous. Some CGI moments in this film are just breathtaking, and I loved it. The CGI people working on it deserve all the praise they can get, and it's funny because they were definitely all working on that. And it's funny, last year they were probably all working on Infinity War, and that's why the Black Panther CGI was a bit suspicious, and some of the Captain Marvel CGI was a bit iffy because they were all working on Endgame. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Yeah, not much to say about Black Widow's death. And now let's talk about what they did with Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, because Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, they're done. Their contracts ran out, so Iron Man dies. That's probably the biggest spoiler that you can get from this film, and there, I said it, Iron Man dies. And I'll get to that in a bit, because I have stuff to say about that, but I'm really glad that Tony Stark got a moment with his dad, because throughout the entire MCU, you really get to see Tony Stark as a person dealing with the traumas of his past. He didn't have the best upbringing. His dad was never really there for him, and he has a bit of a love-hate relationship with his dad, because his dad really did want the best for him. He just never really expressed it in the way that he should have. So I was very glad that Tony got one last moment with Howard Stark. They have a nice exchange, and Tony really gets a nice cap on his whole arc with his father, and I thought that there was some really nice finality there. Talking about finality, I've talked about the tone of this film. You really get the sense that this is the end of the end. You get that sense of finality, and yeah, you really get to feel the emotional weight. The film feels epic, it feels grand, it feels like the end of something big, and I'm glad that they nailed that tone, that sense of finality, because this really deserved to feel like something big. It is a massive film, and I'm glad that the film actually understood that. It understood that this was a film with massive expectations, and it really felt big and epic and grand in scope, and yeah. So yeah, Steve Rogers gets a moment with Peggy Carter in the final scene, and that was fantastic. I'm really glad that that he got to have the life with Peggy that he deserved. He really deserved that. Ever since Captain America: The First Avenger, which has one of the best endings to any MCU film, you know, when he says, "I had a date," you really get the sense that Steve Rogers deserves something, because he's such an optimist. He's so good to everyone. He's such a good person, you know, he's the most morally righteous person. He's just a decent guy, and he knows, he just knows what's best for people, and I'm glad that he got the life that he deserved with Peggy, and I'm so glad that they chose him and Peggy dancing as the final scene. They could have gone with, I don't know, a more traditional fade out after seeing all the characters. But they closed on Steve and Peggy, and I was really happy about that. Now let's move on to the things that, I don't know, I had flaws with the film. Obviously, I wasn't going to think it was a perfect film. I rarely think that films are perfect, and a 3-hour film with this, this amount of expectations on it, and this so much stuff going on, so many characters and plot lines converging, it was always going to have a few issues. I thought that Tony Stark's death could have gone on for a bit longer. I wanted to cry in this film. I really did. I went into the film really wanting to be moved emotionally, and I wanted to cry, and I thought that Tony Stark's death was going to do that for me, but it felt a bit rushed. I wanted it to go on a bit longer. So it never really lasted long enough to hit hard. I wanted to be hit emotionally more than I did. I wanted to cry, and I didn't. The final battle against Thanos and all his henchmen, his whole army, that was set up perfectly. Every character comes back through the portals. Doctor Strange portals them in. Thanos is there with his army. And hang on, brief side note. I love the moment where Thanos realizes what their plan is. The whole time travel thing when what's her name? Karen Gillan's character, Nebula. Yeah, that's it, Nebula. When he realizes that Nebula's eye is spazzing out, and he can see our Nebula's timeline, and he realizes what their plan is, and we just get that sense of like dread and oh no, Thanos is coming. I love that moment. Anyway, the final fight, I wanted it to go on for longer, just like Tony Stark's death. I didn't think that it felt as epic and as massive as it should have. It really doesn't last that long. Lots of people throw around the stones. Iron Man gets the gauntlet, snaps it. I am Iron Man. Really, really great way to end Tony Stark. Especially since that line was actually improvised. I don't know if many people know that, but the original I am Iron Man line from the original Iron Man film at the end was actually improvised. I think that's right. I think I read that somewhere. But yeah, I wanted that final fight to feel bigger. I wanted it to go on longer. It felt a bit anticlimactic, and I didn't want to say that, but yeah, I wanted that final battle to go on for longer, and I know that it was 3 hours already, and it would have been taking liberties with audience members if it went on any longer than that. But maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a Snyder cut out there. It's a joke. But maybe there's an extended cut out there somewhere where the fight goes on a bit longer. Other niggles that I have with it, the Hulk/Banner CGI was a bit iffy. It never quite convinced me, especially when he has to do more dramatic things, when Black Widow dies and Bruce Banner has to react to that, because obviously they had a thing going. I didn't think that the motion capture really sold emotional moments very well. What else do I have to say? Yeah, a few flaws. Time travel nitpicks again. Obviously, I'm not the expert on time travel. No one knows how time travel works, but I'm pretty sure that they created a lot more plot holes than the film actually delved into. Loki escapes. He escapes to go and have his own TV show on Disney Plus. So yeah, I think that they should have created many more problems in time than they did. But again, I'm not the expert on time travel. Neither are the writers. I'm really struggling at this point. I need another drink. Bear with me again. The writers did a fantastic job. It was Marcus and McFeely, I think. Yes. Again, writers don't get enough credit. I'm looking to be a writer, so I think I might be a bit biased, but yeah. The writing's fantastic. The Russo brothers, again, deserve so much credit for keeping this all together. I think I'm wrapping this up. Oh, yes. Some characters get a bit shortchanged, but obviously they didn't die. They have more films to go and do. Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Spider-Man, all the Guardians. Hopefully Thor becomes one of the Guardians of the Galaxy as a side thought, because he says, look at us as Guardians of the Galaxy. So I really hope that we get to see him in Guardians 3. I really hope that Thor is involved in the next wave of Marvel films, because Chris Hemsworth is perfect for Thor. But yeah, I thought that some characters didn't get the time that they deserved. Okoye is barely in it, and I know that there was a whole controversy about that. But yeah, So yeah, those are my thoughts on Endgame. I think that's about it. I'm gonna give Avengers Endgame an A minus. Not a perfect film. I have a few tiny flaws, but overall, an immensely satisfying film. It gave me everything I wanted and more. I will happily go and see it again. I've only seen it once, so I'm surprised I actually remember this much about it. But I've done lots of research about it. I've seen lots of other reviews. Can't wait to see it again. I am going to see it again before it leaves the cinemas. It won't leave cinemas for a long time because it's made $2.5 billion already and it's going to make more and more. So yeah, if you made it to the end, leave me a comment because I would appreciate that. Thanks for sticking with me if you've stuck with me to this point. I've been talking for 20 minutes. So yeah, this is one of my longer reviews. Going to save me some editing because I'm not going to edit this. I just want to get it right out there. And yeah, those are my thoughts on Avengers Endgame. Possibly the biggest film that I will ever get to talk about. And this is the one chance that I will get to talk about it. So I think I've done it justice. If there are things that I've forgotten about, please comment below. Tell me. And yeah, I think there are more things that I have to say, but I can't think of them right now. So yeah, anyway, maybe I'll do a supplemental video to this if I think of anything more. But yeah, Avengers Endgame. You've obviously seen it if you're watching this video, hopefully. If you just like having things spoiled for you, then I don't know, good for you. But yeah, if you made it to this point, thank you. If you haven't, I'm not even talking to you. So yeah, I'm done talking. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever you want to do. And until the next time, goodbye.